Welcome back to Continental Club. Yes, I know it's a bit of an unfamiliar face hosting this time, but Chris Hamill is away in Croatia, I believe.
On a lads holiday.
Yeah.
Lads. Shout out, Chris.
So we're all very disapproving of that. But without further ado, we need to discuss the hottest topics in European football, starting with Man City today, about their Champions League ambition. So it is still European. This comes in from @Man City Croydon. And he's asking, who does Pep need to sign this summer in order for City not only to retain the Premier League, but to further their ambitions in football? Starting with Pat. What do you think?
One thing that I remember Pep talking about last season was he said that his team played in a very Premier League way, which meant that even in the last 10 minutes of games they were winning, they were still thundering up and down the field. And I remember him expressing his displeasure that De Bruyne and Silva, who obviously have the technical quality to just slow the game down, retain possession and see it out that way, didn't actually do that. So I think that Jorginho makes an awful lot of sense. Jorginho, he's a game controller, he's a really solid passer, he can evade pressure really well. And when you think about Pep's teams at Bayern Munich and at Barcelona, these were sides who defended with the ball. They just kept the ball away from you and they could just do that for half an hour. Something last season I don't think that they were particularly good at. So I think in the league, they're actually pretty well set up, but Jorginho will be an excellent long-term replacement for Fernandinho, that kind of game-controlling central midfielder who can do a bit of everything. In the Champions League, it's a little bit harder to tell. I mean, in a way, I think they were kind of unlucky to come up against Liverpool, who were almost uniquely suited to beat that Man City side, right? You know, to rip that defence apart. But also, I think last season, it wasn't so much squad deficiencies that meant they lost to Liverpool. I thought it was just bad decisions from Pep. You know, putting Laporte at left back. Remember that?
It was very odd. It was very odd. I mean, I don't really know. I don't know that they need that much. I think they're going to win the title fairly comfortably. So if I was Pep, I wouldn't necessarily be completely concerned that signings need to affect a domestic run. I think they're going to be okay. I'd like to see him continue to use Phil Foden and some of those young players that we saw him bring through earlier in the season. So I think he'll probably do that next year. I think you'll see the likes of Foden probably get a little bit more game time, which is going to be really exciting if you're a City fan. And yes, they probably agreed a deal for Jorginho. I know Pep hopes to get him through the door by the time pre-season starts, or at least around about the start of pre-season, because I think it is beginning now, isn't it? So Man City fans get excited about Jorginho because it looks like it's happening. The other name that is obviously heavily linked is Riyad Mahrez. Now, Riyad Mahrez is a really interesting one. It looks like City have agreed a deal in the region of £60 million. Now, they obviously went in, I think, at 70 million in January, but obviously Leicester rightfully said no because they had no need to sell him, and it was a real last-minute bid, wasn't it? It was literally deadline day stuff. So if they had sold him, then they wouldn't have been able to replace Mahrez. Now, the introduction of Mahrez might mean the end for one of their other young forwards. I don't see how you fit Gabriel Jesus, Aguero, Raheem Sterling, Leroy Sané, Bernardo Silva and Riyad Mahrez into what is effectively a front two at times, maybe a front three when he uses one winger. But Bernardo Silva's game time was fairly limited last season anyway. What does it mean for him with the introduction of Raheem Sterling at £60 million? Do you spend £60 million on a player to come in and sit permanently on the bench? I don't know. I think Riyad Mahrez is being bought in as a potential starting wide.
Do you think?
And if that is the case, then does that mean Bernardo Silva is going to be dropped deep? We saw it at times for Portugal that he was playing a slightly more reserved role, particularly when they needed a goal. I think against Uruguay, he was picking the ball up from between the centre backs at times. So I don't know what it means for a player like Bernardo Silva and an ageing David Silva that Riyad Mahrez comes in at £60 million. That's a massive transfer.
Sure, it's a weird one. I feel like I was discussing it briefly with Zach on Transfer Review yesterday. That I think the big positive for City is that they are clearly very focused on investing while they're on the top, which is what Premier League champions have tended to not, but they've tended to fail at doing that over the last few years, especially Chelsea. Obviously, Leicester's a bit of a special case, but
Mahrez will be their record signing, won't it?
Yeah,
I think Laporte was what
57, something like that.
Yeah. So your record signing, we're not even expecting Riyad Mahrez to be. A starting first name.
Yeah, that is quite extraordinary,
start.
actually. Yeah. And it's weird because I don't think of anywhere where they need to strengthen. They're so well covered in the forward positions. They were very good defensively last year, but a couple of injuries in the defence, and that they start to look a bit shaky, especially at fullback. Obviously, like fullbacks have been a problem for them for years, and they finally sorted it out last year. But they don't really have a huge amount of cover in those areas. Obviously, Fabian Delph deputised quite well at left back at times, but you still kind of want. I don't know. I still think you'd want a more orthodox left back to play.
They have Zinchenko. They also have Angelino, right, who's been on loan at New York City FC. I mean, I was kind of hoping that we'd see a bit more from those guys this season. Angelino, Pablo Maffeo, but he's been sold to Stuttgart. I mean, and in the attacking positions, given all the depth that you've talked about, I don't see why your fifth or sixth guy on the depth chart can't be Brandon Barker or Brahim Diaz,
exactly.
Like one of these really exciting young players. I don't see why it has to be a £60 million Riyad Mahrez.
Yeah, I'm all for depth, and I think that actually probably the best teams in Europe have the deepest squads. You look at the likes of Real Madrid, who've consistently won Champions Leagues. They have the deepest attack in Europe, you could argue, with like Isco, Asensio, Ronaldo, Benzema, Bale. It's a fantastically deep attack, and maybe that's what City are looking to replicate. But I think there's depth, and there's too much depth. And that comes at the potential detriment of morale within the squad. I think if Bernardo Silva puts together 5 or 6 games, it's all well and good putting him in the side, but then what does that mean for a young Phil Foden or another young talented attacker at City? He is never going to see a route to success in that first team when he has to go through 6 players to get a match.
Man City are clearly a team who are probably capable of building a kind of almost like a Ferguson-style dynasty over the next 10 years.
Do you think? I don't think Pep's going to be there that long.
No, for sure. No, not necessarily in terms of like it being centred around a manager, but in terms of it being centred around an ethos and style of play and just continued success. I think they definitely have the resources to do that. However, I think what they do need to do is to develop players like Diaz and Foden and get them and make them regular starting players within the next 3-4 years.
I'm not sure that Mahrez wins them anything they wouldn't win without him. And I don't know. It's an easy way for people to attack you if you don't have a pipeline from the academy to the first team. And given that they've now got arguably the best academy in the world, or certainly one of the best, they should be leveraging that into success in the long term.
Definitely. So where do you see City next season? Do you see them as Champions League winners? Do you see them as Premier League winners, FA Cup winners, like the full package? Because at the moment I see them as Premier League winners, Cup winners, but still not there in Europe.
The only real clubs, the only real European clubs that I see competing for the Champions League against, I think City, Liverpool and Spurs at the moment are very, very strong. It depends what Chelsea and United do as to whether they're in the mix for that. But then I think after that you get into maybe Juve if Ronaldo goes there, and maybe Barcelona, depending what they do as well. Like Real Madrid, I think that there'll be a bit of a drop-off for them, particularly if they lose Ronaldo. They'll be turning over the squad, adapting to a new coach. Even though the squad's still great, they'll be contenders, but I don't think they'll win it. Bayern, I think that they're looking at, what looks like a managerial downgrade, and again, they've got some squad turnover to be done. And when you look around the other clubs, maybe Atleti, maybe it's Atleti.
I am still excited to see PSG under Tuchel though. I think PSG under Tuchel is going to be an exciting project.
But who knows? If they lose Mbappe, I'd actually, if I were PSG, I'd be more inclined. Or if I were Tuchel, I reckon Tuchel would be happier to lose Neymar than to lose Mbappe. Mbappe fits Tuchel football more.
Yeah, same. So I guess that's any summaries, lads?
Yeah. I think City will win the league. I think they'll make at least the Champions League semis. I think they should be favourites for the Champions League next year.
Oh, big claims.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think probably favourites, or at least in the top 3. I do think it's dangerous to write off Madrid. Don't know. It's just they're always just there and thereabouts, aren't they? Although Lopetegui, has he got the same punch that Zidane had in that dressing room? I'm not so sure.
And if Ronaldo goes,
so I think probably the top 3 I would go in the Champions League favourites as City, Juve, Madrid, in and around that sort of area.
Yeah, can't really argue with that, to be honest. But what do you guys think? Will Man City win the Champions League next year? And if they're not capable of doing so, what do they need? Let us know in the comments below. Okay, so before we go on to quick-fire questions, we are going to do a little preview of the match this evening. Belgium-Brazil, arguably the hottest ticket in the quarterfinals. Would you agree?
No, obviously England-Sweden, mate.
Well,
Come on, wake up. Smell the bacon.
I'll see. But yeah, what do you guys think about the game tonight? Obviously, Belgium apparently no injury worries. Lukaku is still fit. Brazil obviously have Casemiro suspended.
Oh, that's a big blow.
It is, but then Fernandinho obviously is very capable in that position as well. But yeah, different kinds of defensive midfielders. But the big one, apparently, Gabriel Jesus is place is under threat from Bobby Firmino, which is perhaps the most interesting development here. What do you guys think?
I think that's the right decision by Tite to bring Firmino in. To be completely honest, I've enjoyed Brazil, but not necessarily Gabriel Jesus. I don't think he's been at his best this tournament. And I think when Bobby Firmino's come on in the last 20 minutes of games, he's arguably looked more dangerous. So I don't have a problem with Tite bringing Firmino in. I think he links really well with Neymar, and he's allows Neymar to be slightly more expressive because he drops a little bit deeper, I think. So I'm excited for the game tonight. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. I think Coutinho will be the defining factor in this game. He's just had such a good tournament. I'm expecting big things from him on what is a massive night for Brazil. I think they might be favourites for the entire tournament. Yeah. And on paper and the way they've played, they probably have been the best team so far this tournament. So I'm expecting them to beat Belgium and probably beat France as well. I think Brazil should win this tournament from this position. The other side of the draw is poor at best. And Belgium and France for a place in the final, I think Brazil will be licking their lips. They should be winning this tournament from this position, Brazil.
Brazil and Belgium are probably the two best attacking teams in the tournament so far, based on expected goals, based on shot counts, based on just looking at their forward talent. The difference between them is that Brazil is also a defensive powerhouse, right? Yeah. Like, they've conceded 1 goal through 4 games. They've conceded fewer goals in the tournament so far than Belgium did against Japan. I mean, and that was from a corner against Switzerland. Like, otherwise they've been pretty much impregnable. That defence is amazing. Obviously Casemiro helps, but like you said, Fernandinho is a fantastic defensive presence in that midfield, and so would Fred be. You know, Renato Augusto as well is an out-and-out defensive midfielder, so they've got tons of defensive presence. I fully expect them to get through this game. I don't know. I understand what you mean about Firmino probably earning his place, but you could argue that if Belgium are as wide open as Martinez sides tend to be, that Jesus might be more useful just because you're playing through the middle.
True.
I would imagine that Belgium be a little bit more cautious in this game and rely on just outstanding quality from their forwards to get them through it. But they haven't looked solid in midfield so far. They've been playing, Witsel and De Bruyne in a double pivot, and that's fine, but it's certainly not difficult to get through. Like, I'd hope that Moussa Dembele would come in for them for this game if they want to progress.
Yeah, I really didn't think KDB was that impressive against the Japanese. I thought
he's too deep.
He was way too deep, and I thought Japan had way too easier a game counter-attacking against that Belgian midfield. They were so exposed to the backline. Whenever Japan wanted to go forward, it was comfortable for them to break the first line of press. Shinji Kagura at times was having an absolute field day in between the lines. So what Philippe Coutinho is going to do in between the lines tonight could be obscene if Belgium don't tighten up.
Yeah, they definitely have to switch things up in some way. Whether they will do so, another man.
Yeah, I can't see them. I can't see them outshot. Yeah, well, that's the thing about Fellaini. If they're within a goal with like 10, 15 minutes to go, then I don't feel that bad about it. Put on Fellaini and certainly have a go. But
I would start Fellaini tonight. I would start Fellaini against the Brazilians tonight.
God, really?
Yeah, I just think Fellaini has had a really strong tournament. I think that if you're going to challenge Brazil, one area to potentially get at them is set pieces, and I think that with the height of Romelu Lukaku, and I don't care what anyone says, there is nobody better at dominating an area of 5 yards than Marouane Fellaini on a football pitch. In terms of, you hit a ball at him and he can hold 3 men off while he brings that ball down on his chest or flicks it on, and he will be a danger.
He might be a good way. He might be a good way at getting round a player like Fernandinho, actually.
I just think he's a completely different asset to what Brazil will have faced before in this tournament.
I think though Brazil did struggle a little bit against Mexico with some of their build-up play in the absence of Marcelo. Like, there were a lot of times in that game where Felipe Luis would get on the ball, and as great as Felipe Luis was, he's pretty old now, and he'd look around, not really fancy himself to go past his man, and he'd just pass it sideways. Whereas Marcelo is such an all-round threat. He's an incredible aggressive passer. He's a really good dribbler. He's got an unbelievable creative eye. Like, having that weapon on the flank is really necessary for them because they don't have the same creativity on the right wing with Wagner there. So I think that if they don't have Marcelo, then you know what, maybe you fancy Belgium's wingers against them.
Yeah, it's true.
Because Belgium have some great talent in the wide areas.
So there we have it. What's your predictions then? What are we doing? Predictions for the game. Let's get a score, Mikey.
I'm going to say 2-1 Brazil. Going to be quite conservative.
Yeah.
It's going to be. It will. As the tournament progresses, I can't see any other big high-scoring games at this tournament. It will be interesting though. It will be interesting.
I actually do agree with you. Like I think it's probably likely to be a 1-0 or 2-0, but I'm going to be an optimist. I'm going to go 3-1 Brazil.
Oh my God. I'm going to go 1-0 Brazil. I think they will scrape past Belgium, just have enough to be like a Coutinho screamer.
Yeah, they're on to win this tournament the way Spain did in 2010, right? Just 1-0, 1-0, 1-0 all the way.
Working for them.
Sweet. But what do you guys think? Let us know your predictions in the comments below. Make them quick because it's just about to kick off probably. So yeah, enjoy. So we finish off with quick fire questions, and the first one comes in from @SifeManana22. He says, bit of football tactics related one here. Which formation do you prefer? A lone striker, two-man striker, or a three-man front line?
Oh my God, that is a tough question, isn't it? I think it completely depends on the manager and the players that are operating in that. Although, having said that, personally, I think there's no better sight than a front two. Little and large, one knocking it down.
I do love it.
Crouchy, Defoe, back of the net. I don't know. I just really like a front two. If I could find if you can find a really good front two, it's very rare nowadays that it's used, but when it's used well, it's beautiful.
I thought Aguero and Jesus when Pep was using them as a front two last season was.
And at times Ronaldo and Benzema. I loved watching Ronaldo and Benzema at times.
Yeah, well, it's just novelty now, isn't it? I mean, like if you'd asked us this like 15 years ago, we probably would have said, "Oh, front three is really exciting," because we were used to seeing one or two up top. Whereas now, I just feel like you so rarely see that, and it almost always means like aggressive decisions in the rest of the field. I mean, I suppose Atleti do it to some extent, often, with Griezmann and Costa, but. Yeah, I don't know. That is quite fun.
And when we saw Leicester do it with Vardy and Okazaki just set off him, I thought that was a sight to behold.
That
two
was
out-and-out wingers,
so
all Brighton and Mahrez stuck on the wings, and then two midfielders with Kante and Drinkwater. Proper 4-4-1-1. That was quality.
That was good. Next one. This comes from OMZT Turbo. Who do you believe has been the player of the tournament so far? I'm assuming that means the World Cup.
Yeah, oh my God, it's a tough one. Probably Coutinho. I think Coutinho has been absolutely exceptional. And I think I'm saying that probably because I wasn't expecting so much from him. I think he's actually held the mantle for Brazil when others haven't been at their best. So I would go Coutinho. Although, one big shout out early doors, Kieran Trippier. I think Kieran Trippier has been absolutely fantastic for England. His dead ball set pieces have effectively got us to the quarterfinals so far. So yeah. Trippier for me. And Coutinho number one.
Tackles as well, didn't he, against Colombia? Pat?
I might go N'Golo Kante, he's just been amazing in defensive midfield. I think if France win the World Cup, it'll be because of him. And when you look at, the Argentina game where they conceded 3 goals, it wasn't anything that Kante could have done wrong. One was just an unbelievable hit from Di Maria. One is a scramble at a corner that takes an unlucky deflection. And then there's just Messi doing the kind of thing that he can do, which is just play an absolutely perfect pass. Like whenever I've seen N'Golo Kante get on the ball, he's pinging balls out to the wings as well.
Fantastic,
his development as a player is absolutely staggering. He's one of the best central midfielders in the world.
One more as well, Diego Godin. Diego Godin has been a monster at this tournament
and
so
Lax
far.
out as well.
Yeah.
Who's normally like a winger or midfielder, is playing left back, and he is lights out.
Yeah,
he's been amazing there.
Superb.
I'm really excited. And actually, I tell you what, Cavani had such a sick game against Portugal.
He did. That face goal.
Two of my favourite goals.
In with his jawline.
They're both absolutely filthy.
Yeah. It's going to be a shame that he's probably going to be out of the France game, isn't it? But I'm going to say Harry Kane, go for the obvious one. I think he has been pretty great, but I guess that's just a biased England perspective. Very good against Colombia as well. Drew so many fouls. Next question. Who do you think will replace Jorginho at Napoli from @Zav Davis BTCC fan? But I believe Napoli have already got someone in.
They've got Fabian Ruiz in from Betis. They got him for his release clause. I think it's somewhere between 20 and 30 million euros. He's obviously an outstanding young midfielder, primarily an attacker though, so I don't really think that he's going to be the Jorginho replacement. I think he'll be the long-term Hamsik replacement. There's rumours Hamsik might go to China. I think, to be honest, in that defensive midfield role, the guy who's going to replace Jorginho long-term will be Amadou Diawara. You know, he's already at the club. He's very, very young, great defensive output, a really good passer as well. He seems kind of tailor-made to step in straight away. And they've got a bunch of midfielders who barely played last season. You know, obviously Hamsik, Jorginho, Alan, like these guys got regular minutes, but Zielinski barely played, Marco Rogue barely played, Diawara barely played. So these guys hopefully will get a run in the first team. And I think
you never know either that Carlo might completely rip up Sarri's system. He might not even use a defensive midfielder in the same way that Jorginho was used under Sarri. So I don't even know whether they'll look to replace him directly, like Pat said.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's favoured a 4-2-3-1, I guess, in the past, or a 4-3-3. So I think it's entirely possible that you just have a midfield where everyone's pretty defensively responsible and no one guy has that role.
Yeah, fair enough. We end things with a personal question.
Okay.
I'm going to go for at Milgy99. What is the worst injury you have ever had? I mean, this obviously doesn't have to be football related, just general life.
General life. Worst injury for me was I snapped my femur, which is your thigh bone, playing football in a 50-50 tackle when I was 15, 16, I think, something around that sort of age. Yeah, just ruptured my ACL, snapped the femur. Just 50-50 tackle, both standing, but my bottom half of my leg basically just went backwards. And yeah, it cracked it from the kneecap up, splintered off, and then snapped the ACL.
Yikes.
And then did all the cartilage damage as well. When the bone moves like that, it damages the cartilage. So yeah, that was a nasty one for me.
How long until you were walking again?
I was okay. I was in a full leg cast, toe to hip, so they basically reset it. Luckily, because the bone didn't fully fracture off, I didn't need surgery on the top half of the leg. Jesus. So they reset your knee and reset the bone, and then they put you in full leg cast, and I was in full leg cast for 3-4 months, something like that, and then you have physio after that. But it's like when you come out of that full leg cast, your thigh and your calf is the width of your arm.
Yeah,
it's tiny. Everything's gone, so you have to build it all back up.
That is horrific.
Yeah, that was an ugly one.
Yeah, just because the femur's the biggest bone in the body, right?
Strongest as well. I don't know. It's really hard to break a femur as well. It just happened because I think the angle my knee was at or something like that. And then I was led on the floor, and I was obviously screaming, and everybody was like, "Oh mate, you just twisted your knee. You just twisted your knee. Don't worry about it. Get up." So they pulled me over to this bench, and I sat on the bench. I was I'm really, really in pain. And they were like, "No, you've just twisted your knee. You've not dislocated or anything. I can see your kneecap there. You've just probably twisted it or tweaked it like a ligament." And so they put me in this BMW, and to get into the BMW, there's quite a flat area, and I had to go up, in, and round like that with my knee, and I was literally screaming from taking it straight to angle to straight again to get into a small BMW. And they were like, "Oh, maybe you have hurt it." Got to the hospital, and they're like, "Yeah, you've snapped your femur, mate. You have to be in for a fair while." But
that's horrible.
Horrible story, mate. Yeah, horrible injury. Fair.
Jesus.
What about you, Pat?
I don't really have a serious injury to report. I mean, I fell off a wall and cracked my head when I was a kid.
What, fractured your skull?
I think it was damage, but not fractures. So that was pretty bad. But I don't know. Other than that, I've never officially broken a bone. Really,
I don't think I have.
I'm pretty certain I'm pretty certain I broke my right big toe when I was a kid, playing barefoot football, and then but rather than stop playing football, I just taught myself to play football left-footed for a few months after that until my foot stopped hurting again. So that's probably it. And then I've got some scars from I've got a scar here where I was about 6, and a friend and I were fighting with sticks, and we both hit with sticks, and his stick slid down and hit my hand, and I just went ow, it just was an impact injury. And then I was just going like this, and he pointed, he was like, "Ah!" And I looked down, and there was a massive piece of wood sticking out of my hand, and it was about, I'd say it was about 1.5 inches inside my hand. I went and showed my dad, and my dad just went, "Oh, it's not that bad." Pulled it out, hurt quite a lot, ran it under a tap, and then just wrapped a handkerchief around it. And he was "That'll be fine." And that was it. Awful. Never had stitches. That was just it.
Fair play.
So that was a fun one. Oh, and then I've got little scars from like unopened a tin of beans.
Oh,
And it just went and I could see the bone. That was bad. But I've never like, I had my leg come off.
Pat, I mean, Mike, what are you?
Similarly to you, Pat, I don't think I've ever properly like had a big injury. I guess from being a relatively careful person and not playing that many sports. But I did do my knees in from coming off a motorbike. That wasn't great.
Holy shit! What do you mean? Did your knees in?
So like I just.
Well,
it was yeah. So I went, it was when I was in Southeast Asia. We did a little like 3-day motorbike tour on these like very rickety little like semi-automatic.
I'm thinking
bikes.
Vietnam. Where are we talking?
Laos actually, but
Laos,
yeah, basically same sort of thing. And we were on the second day, and so far I'd been fine. And I was with two people who actually had, one of whom was actually knew how to ride bikes. The other one knew how to drive a car, so that meant that he knew how to conduct himself on a road, whereas I had no road experience whatsoever. So they were often quite far ahead. So I was kind of always feeling like I should kind of like step up the speed to catch up with them.
Jesus.
And then we came onto this bit of the road. We knew it was coming, but basically the road basically stopped and it just became like a dirt track for about, I don't know, 5 miles or something.
Yeah.
But it came onto it on a corner. So I was going relatively fast, probably about, I don't know, maybe about 50k an hour. So probably too fast to be approaching a corner, but I was, none the wiser, and realised very late that we were coming onto this dirt track, and I tried to slow down, but equally had no idea.
Too much of a lad.
Not really. They're just absolutely just stupid. Like this thing had gears, but because I didn't know how to use gears on a motorised vehicle, I just kept it in third gear the whole time.
Cool.
And I also didn't really know how to use a foot brake. So like there was the semi-automatic thing had like a right hand brake and then a foot brake for the back brake. It was a very odd thing, but like at least from my perspective. And so skidded, came down on one side.
Were you in shorts?
Sorry, I was in shorts. Yeah,
Oh.
but I was in shoes. Like the two guys I was with were both in flip flops.
Formal shoes.
Yeah, actually.
You're lucky you were wearing shoes, man.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it wasn't.
Jesus.
So yeah, that wasn't great. And then just about made it to, and obviously like messed up the bike a bit as well. Just about made it to the hostel that evening.
How much further did you have to go?
I had to go quite a way. This was like quite early on in the days kind of expedition. So yeah, then had to kind of go on, and I was just basically gashed my whole left knee open, and then the next day I came off again, and this time on the right leg, as a result of it was actually in this little village as well, and these ducks were just like in the middle of the road and they just weren't getting out of the way.
It's such a macabre story.
It was the worst. Yeah.
I was in Laos and there were these ducks crossing the road and I swerved.
So that wasn't great.
Why didn't you just get a backie off one of your mates if you couldn't ride the bike?
Because I had to get the bike back to the
just
place.
kill the ducks,
I had the bike back to the place. Like we had.
It was a rented bike.
Yeah, it was a rented bike.
Oh, I thought this was like when you go and you buy a bike for like $100.
No, that would have been that would have been a more wise decision in some ways. But like, it wasn't. Yeah, so there was an obligation to get the.
Did you lose your deposit?
I think I lost some of it. Yeah.
Destroyed the bike.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so that wasn't great, and I wasn't really walking properly for a few days after.
You waddling, sidewalking.
So I was proper, I was really like, I was proper kind of like, I was trying to, it was pretty awful. So yeah, that's my worst injury.
I mean, you undersold that at the beginning when you were like, I don't really have anything, and then you were like,
crashed twice in 2 days of a motorbike.
Yeah, true. But lift to tell the tale. My knees were actually fine after a few. Like once I got the antibiotics down me, I was actually walking normal.
Yeah, because that'd be the issue, right?
The infection,
especially if the humidity is high, right? Like.
Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, the humidity being high doesn't help it, and it's quite funny because I was traveling with this Australian guy who it was a bit of a hippie. And like whenever I was like,
if say someone's a bit of a hippie, I'd be fascinated to explain.
But like he was genuinely like when I was, when I had these antibiotics and stuff, he was like, "Oh no, don't bother with that stuff, man. Just your willpower, your mind will, you can."
Oh my god!
And I was just like, no, I think I need to take these antibiotics.
Yeah.
So yes, that's a moral of that story or a lesson. if you're given medication for something, just, take it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Great.
Yeah.
What a wrap up! What a wrap up that is.
So that is the end of the show, isn't it? Pat, where should they go next?
Well, obviously they should stay right here and make sure that you like and subscribe. But we've got a watch along coming up tomorrow. I'm going to be on that. It's going to be covering the England game against Sweden. It's going to be a very, very tense edition, I think. It's only going to get worse as it goes on, so I apologise in advance if it isn't that entertaining. It's just me taking the piss out of England fans. Obviously, we've got tons of World Cup content going on as well, and Stat Wars OG edition is coming back in the absence of Stat Wars the Champions. So see me take on Chris Hamill.
Ooh, and also I think VFN will have gone live today, or will be about to go live in the next hour. So go over and check that out. We're talking about Cristiano Ronaldo's future at Real Madrid.
Ooh, saucy stuff. As always, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.